Today, we're looking at my Hollow roster for Dungeons & Dragons. This is part of my Dark Souls compendium, and the goal here was pretty simple. I wanted Hollows to feel like Hollows, not zombies, skeletons, proper knights, or disciplined undead soldiers. Hollows should feel like violent, degraded remnants of people who used to be something. Some of them were soldiers. Some of them were casters. Some of them were assassins, clerics, or brutes. But whatever they were before, that identity has been warped and reduced into something unstable. Some of them carry spears, use crossbows, throw bombs, or charge at you with an axe. Some are smarter, sneakier, or more magically dangerous. I want to take a moment to share that although I do try to stick as close to the source material as I can with these creatures I take from other franchises, I sometimes also do some stuff that isn't necessarily reflected in-game because of how D&D works. Please excuse any in-game inaccuracies. The shared foundation is pretty straightforward. These are chaotic, evil medium undead that have dark vision for 60 feet and immunity to poison damage, exhaustion, and the poison condition. Most importantly, they all have undead fortitude. If damage reduces them to 0 hit points, they can make a Constitution saving throw to drop to 1 hit point instead, unless the damage is radiant or from a critical hit. That one trait does a lot of work for the whole roster. It gives Hollows that undead refusal to stay down without making them as durable as true frontline knights. Now, you may have noticed that they have an immunity to poison and the poison condition when they don't have this immunity in-game. Well, most undead in D&D have either resistance or immunity to poison damage, especially undead such as zombies, which are kind of what these guys are at this point, but with more functional motor skills. Back to the actual point of the video. Hollows should be dangerous because they are aggressive, numerous, erratic, and occasionally explosive. They should not feel as structurally durable as Lothric Knights, Black Knights, Silver Knights, or other proper martial enemies. So, the distinction is this. Hollows are degraded mob enemies. Knights are disciplined frontliners. Hollows can absolutely kill you, but they should not feel like the same kind of threat. A knight holds formation. A Hollow rushes you with whatever instincts it has left. The first stat block is the Hollow Infantry. This is the baseline Hollow. If you need the most generic member of the enemy family, this is the one. The Hollow Infantry represents the common, low-ranking, broken soldier. It has decent armor, undead fortitude, and a gear trait that lets it be equipped with different weapons. You'll notice it's worded slightly different than other creatures with the gear trait. I did this because I didn't want to make multiple stat blocks for such minor differences. One Hollow Infantry might have a dagger, another might have a hand axe, another might have a long sword and shield, another might have a short bow. That flexibility matters because it lets one stat block represent a whole mob of low-tier enemies. You do not need separate entries for every little weapon variation. You can fill a room with Hollow Infantry and make the group feel messy and uneven. One has a blade, one has a bow, one is barely armed. That fits the Hollow identity really well. They are not uniform troops anymore. They are remnants. The main problem here is remembering which Hollow Infantry has what weapon. At that point, it's up to DM to remember. You could annotate the token on a virtual tabletop with the first letter of the weapon it's using, or write in a notebook what Hollows have what weapons if you're in person. Whatever makes it work for you. Back to the stat block. The Hollow Infantry also has a recharge-based multi-attack, where it can suddenly make 3 attacks. I did that because it gives the creature a little burst of danger like how it does in the actual game. Most of the time, it's just a basic Hollow. But every now and then, it lashes out with a flurry. That fits the creature quite well in my opinion. You think you understand the enemy, you get careless, and then it suddenly starts swinging faster than expected. Now, as a DM, I would not have 5 of these in a room and then all of them do their 3 attacks right off the bat. I would stagger them as combat progresses. 1 or 2 might do their multi-attack right off the bat, but try not to make them all do it at the start, especially if your party is low level. I'm sure you can see the problem in playing it like that. You can probably get away with it at higher levels, but use your discretion. Next is the Hollow Spearman. This one is still simple, but it has a clearer role. The Spearman is the line holder. It has chain shirt and shield, AC 16, and it can attack with a spear or use shield bash to push a target back. That is really all it needs. It stands in the way, pokes at the party, and uses the shield to create space. I like the Spearman because it gives the hollow roster a low CR control piece. It is not just dealing damage. It is affecting positioning. A push effect can matter a lot in the right environment. It can shove someone away from a doorway, push them off a defensive position, break adjacency, or create room for other hollows to move in. It isn't complicated, but it gives the DM something to do besides roll a spear attack every round. After that is the hollow crossbowman. This one fills the ranged pressure role. On its own, a light crossbow and shortsword would not be very exciting, but the bomb feature gives it an actual identity. On a recharge, it can throw a bomb at a point within 60 feet, forcing creatures in a small radius to make a dexterity save or take fire damage. That is exactly what I wanted from this creature. It is not a master archer. It is not a disciplined sniper. It is an annoying ranged hollow that punishes players for clustering together. It can shoot at you, but then suddenly it tosses an explosive into the group and forces everyone to move. That gives the crossbowman a purpose beyond just being the ranged guy. The Hollow Brute is where the roster starts getting more aggressive. It has low AC, but much higher strength and constitution, and it makes 2 great axe attacks. It also knocks targets prone if it moved 20 feet or more toward them before the attack. On top of that, it has Leap, which lets it jump to a space within 30 feet and damage creatures nearby. This is one of my favorite hollows in the roster because the role is extremely clear. The Brute breaks formation. It isn't subtle, defensive, or careful. It charges, leaps, knocks people down, and forces the party to respect its space. The low AC matters here because, well, it's not exactly wearing much but rags and doesn't have the greatest DX score. It's physically strong and dangerous, but it is not protected the way an actual armored frontliner is. If the party focuses it, they can bring it down. But if they ignore it, it can cause problems very quickly. Then we have the Hollow Cleric. This one is the corrupted support caster. It has wisdom-based spell casting, necrotic resistance, healing magic, necromantic cantrips, and tainted land. Tainted land is the feature that really defines it. It targets a 10-foot cube, deals necrotic damage, and reduces movement speed on a failed save. That makes the cleric a battlefield control piece instead of just a healer standing in the back. I like that because a corrupted cleric should not only be throwing out healing. It should make the ground feel wrong. It should slow people down, weaken their positioning, and make the battlefield more hostile. Tainted Land does that. It also pairs well with the rest of the Hollow roster. If a target is slowed, the Brute has an easier time reaching them. The Spearman has an easier time holding them away. The Crossbowman has more time to shoot. The Assassin has more time to get into position. Another side note, in 5.5e, healing spell/effects are universal in that they affect undead just as they would any other creature. Next is the Hollow Swordsman. This one is basically the tougher melee hollow than the Hollow Infantry. It has better armor than the infantry, better ability scores, multi-attack with a long sword, undead fortitude, and the same bomb feature used by the crossbowman. It is not the most unique hollow in the roster, but I don't think that is automatically a problem. Not every monster in a family needs a huge gimmick. Sometimes you need the reliable middleweight. The Hollow Swordsman is that creature. It is stronger than basic infantry, more direct than the spearman, less specialized than the assassin, and less physically overwhelming than the Brute. It is just a better melee hollow with enough extra danger to matter. The bomb also helps keep it from being purely one note, because even a melee-focused hollow can suddenly punish a clustered party. I would use the Swordsman as the elite common hollow. If infantry are the basic dregs, the Swordsman is the one that still remembers how to fight. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but enough to be dangerous. Then we have the Hollow Assassin. This one is a very different kind of threat. It has low hit points and lower AC than the armored hollows, but it has dexterity, acrobatics, stealth, nimble escape, and sneak attack. It makes 2 dagger attacks, and once per turn it can deal extra damage if it has advantage or if the target is near one of the Hollow's allies. This is exactly how I think a Hollow Assassin should work. It should not be durable, nor should it stand in front of the fighter and trade hits. It should hide, slip around the fight, disengage, ambush someone, and punish distracted characters. In a mixed Hollow encounter, this thing becomes much scarier. If the infantry and spearmen are tying up the party, The assassin can move around the edges and look for a vulnerable target. If the assassin gets to play its role, it can hit surprisingly hard. But that's the point. It's fragile, but dangerous. The party should want to find it and remove it before it keeps stabbing the wizard or cleric in the back. Finally, there is the Hollow Mage. This is the arcane pressure piece. It has mage armor, intelligence-based spellcasting, arcana proficiency, and a few simple spells like Firebolt, Ray of Frost, Magic Missile, Thunderwave, Scorching Ray, and Misty Step. It also has Soul Spear as a recharge attack, dealing force damage at range. I like the Hollow Mage because it is not trying to be a full wizard. That would be too much for this kind of enemy. It just needs enough magic to change the texture of the fight. Firebolt and Ray of Frost give it basic ranged options. Magic Missile gives it reliable damage. Thunderwave gives it a panic button if melee characters get too close. Misty Step helps it reposition. Soul Spear gives it that recognizable Dark Souls-style magical attack. That is really all it needs. The Hollow Mage should be annoying and dangerous, but not overwhelming. It's not a lich or a boss. It's a ruined caster whose magic is still dangerous enough to matter. In a mixed encounter, it creates target priority. Do the players focus the brute charging at them, the crossbowman shooting bolts and throwing bombs, the cleric corrupting the ground, or the mage firing spells from the backline? That's the real strength of the roster. Each hollow has a job. The infantry fills the battlefield. The spearman controls space. The crossbowman pressures from range and punishes clustering. The brute breaks formation. The cleric controls and corrupts the battlefield. The swordsman serves as the tougher melee hollow. The assassin punishes distracted targets. The mage adds arcane pressure. Individually, most of these creatures are not that complicated. They're not meant to be boss monsters. They're encounter pieces. Their strength comes from combination. A few hollow infantry by themselves are simple. But put infantry in front, a spearman holding a doorway, a crossbowman behind cover, a cleric dropping tainted land, and an assassin circling the side, and now the encounter has real decisions. That is what I want from hollows. They should not be as organized as skeletons, and they should not be as mindless as zombies. Zombies overwhelm with bodies. Skeletons feel at least somewhat disciplined and eerie, like soldiers still following orders centuries later. Hollows are somewhere else. They are degraded, violent, and unstable, but not completely random. There is still something left of who they were. A soldier still knows how to hold a spear. A cleric still remembers prayers. A mage still remembers spells. An assassin still knows where to strike. But none of it is whole anymore, and that's the difference. The hollow follows the broken remains of instinct. From an encounter design perspective, I would usually run hollows in groups. A single hollow can work as a guard, ambusher, or environmental threat, but the roster really shines when you mix them. A low-level group might fight infantry and a spearman. Add a crossbowman if you want range pressure. Add a brute when you want the fight to become more dangerous. Add a cleric or mage when you want the encounter to feel more tactical. Add an assassin when you want the backline to feel unsafe. The lower hit points help a lot here because it means the party can actually cut through them. That is important. If every hollow takes forever to kill, then they stop feeling like hollows and start feeling like armored elites. With lower hit points and undead fortitude, they land in a better place. They can go down, but they might not stay down. They're killable, but unreliable. That's a good undead feeling in my opinion overall. I am happy with this roster because it gives hollows a real identity in D&D. They're not just reskin zombies or weak knights. They're a full enemy family built around degradation, aggression, and leftover combat instincts. They're simple enough to run in groups, varied enough to build interesting encounters, and dangerous enough that players cannot just ignore them. And for me, that's exactly where hollows should sit. They're the broken remains of warriors, casters, thieves, and common soldiers. Not disciplined enough to be true soldiers. Not mindless enough to be simple corpses. Just aware enough to be dangerous, and too far gone to stop with words. If you enjoyed today's video, consider leaving a like and subscribe to see future content. I know my last video about Dark Souls didn't do the greatest, but here's to hoping this one does better. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.